the more that you play and bring play into your life in all levels and capacities, the easier and more efficient all your work becomes, which is a very actually strict energy principle of coherence. Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. I am here today with Blaine. We are here together. Hi, Blaine.
Hi.
And we're doing a follow-up pod on play because it's brought out a lot of things for actually a lot of people. So I don't usually go back and listen to the podcasts that I've recorded. I've recorded so much stuff, and I think like many people that are in any kind of performance, not that this is a performance per se, but it is a little bit. It's not just like regular Lauren just having a conversation. Anyway, it's tough to go back and watch yourself, right? And so I don't think a lot of people do that. But I went back and watched the podcast on play because I was just really curious about it. I almost couldn't remember what I had said, which is often the case because I'm often just sort of downloading or channeling or whatever you want to call it, just talking, right? Not really thinking about it. And I went back and listened to it, and I was actually kind of surprised. We were planning on doing a podcast, a podcast about play together anyway, but then I listened to the first one, and it's light, and it's fun, and it's funny, and then it gets really dark, and I get kind of aggressive and kind of angry. And I was really curious about that because we're talking about play, and I kind of went off into a side angle piece about all of the billionaires and how horrible they are. And I just went down this whole dark hole of just the wasted attention span that we all paid all of those people and how destructive the billionaire class is to our environment and our worlds. And just had a conversation with a woman, small business owner that I like to support. She makes vegan food. And every other week I go and get a big delivery of vegan food from her. And she was talking about how prices are going up and for everything that she does, which is the highest quality of everything. You know, the containers are all compostable, but just the driving and the food and everything has gone up in prices. And so we're just talking about the struggles that we've been having. And then sort of in light of this big Met Gala and the big billionaires versus the little people, which is been very much in center stage right now. And there's a couple things about the podcast that I did that bothered me. One is I really don't like the us versus them dynamic, although it creeps in a lot and I fall prey to it a lot, but I don't love it. And when I hear myself othering, I know already I'm in some difficult territory. And the other part of just saying, I mean, it was really quite awful to listen to myself saying, these are horrible, horrible people. Because first of all, I don't know these people personally. I actually have one billionaire friend, and he's quite lovely, actually. But I don't know all of these billionaires and if they're horrible, miserable, unhappy people. There was a big article in the New York Times recently about Lauren Bezos and how she just wants to have fun and she won't talk about politics. And so it's sort of like, okay, my narrative of these people not having fun, she just really kind of countered that. All she wants to do is play, and she doesn't actually want to take any responsibility for any of the things that she probably has direct responsibility for. One actually being that she almost single-handedly financed the Met Gala this year. So there's a lot of complexity to this idea of play and having time to play, because having time to play requires you to have enough financial means that you can play. So it's very complex. And then there's also, I want to just continue that piece about saying that all of the billionaires are horrible, horrible people. There's some billionaires doing some incredible, wonderful things in the world. Actually, Bezos's ex-wife, who Mackenzie Scott, let's call her by her name, Mackenzie Scott. She wanted nothing more to do with Jeff. Good job, Mackenzie. And gives away millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And a lot of it very quietly as well. She was not at the Met Gala. She was not at the Met Gala showing off her fake everythings. She just supports these causes with her massive amounts of money. And there's a lot of billionaires that do that as well. So I'm not like giving a free pass to the billionaires, but I wanted to just correct myself when I said that they're all horrible, miserable people, because that was not true. And I like to be in integrity with myself. And so back to this idea of play, it also, like, we got a lot of comments about it, and we've had a lot of discussions about it, and it brought up a lot of consternation, maybe, for Blaine and me in our conversations. And so we decided to have another conversation about play, what it is, what it isn't, how you can bring more of it into your life. But I want to start here by bringing Blaine on to talk about why she was so, I don't like the word triggered, and maybe that isn't the right word to use, or maybe it is, I'm going to let her say, but why she has a lot of thoughts about play.
All right. First, Lauren, can you define consternation? Because I cannot say I agree or do not agree that I had it. I think I know what it is, but tell me for sure.
Just a lot of agita around it. Like you were concerned and it triggered if we needed a kind of a bit of a parallel word for it. I could grab my dictionary. It's sitting on my other desk. I could grab it if we wanted exact definition.
It's not a word that I use.
I'm going to go grab the dictionary. While you're thinking, I'll mute myself. I'm going to go grab my dictionary. Okay. Let's see. I looked up another word the other day here, and it wasn't in the dictionary, which I thought was so interesting because it must have been a new word. Consternation. Here we go. Astonishment, amazement, or horror that confounds the faculties and incapacitates a person for consultation and execution, excessive terror, wonder, or surprise. So I think like a surprise. I don't know about terror, but you were surprised at your strong reaction to my directive that you should play more. Would that be correct?
Oh my God, I kind of can't stop laughing. What a definition that is. I think that there are things that I do because I greatly enjoy them. Then I would be really sad if I could not do them. There would be a hole in my heart if I was unable to do them that maybe some people wouldn't call play. But I also, it brought to mind, I will never forget this moment because it was just an aha moment for me. I can't remember if I've ever told this story before, maybe even have on the podcast. I mean, it was a very impactful moment for me. I was younger, previous iteration of Blaine, and I was a hardcore Ironman triathlete. And we would go to, it's called Masters Swimming. And Masters Swimming really just means that you're an adult swimmer. And so you have a coach. And so you all show up at the same time to a big, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and they put you in different lanes based on how fast a swimmer you are. And then the coach is like, do this drill, do this drill, do this drill. And, you're all swimming back and forth in the lane. It's a big workout, and it helps you become a better swimmer. And swimming is my least favorite thing, really. At least in the world of triathlon, which is swim and bike and run. What swimming is, by a long, long shot, my least favorite of the three sports. But I would make myself go to master swimming. It was very hard for me. I did not like the lane I was put in. I've always been a mediocre swimmer. It was just, but, I would go. And I traveled a lot, so I couldn't be super consistent, but I would always go when I could. And I had a lot of friends in triathlon. Really, when I look back at my life, and the communities that I have had, and really just the fun I've had in my life, the fun that I have had, my triathlon years and my training buddies, and like going to these swims together and these bikes and these runs and traveling together and racing together and supporting each other. And we supported each other in our lives and in our sport. And we were just a huge family. And I mean, I know life goes on and I'll never be able to recreate that I had in my life back then. But it was so joyful for me. So is that play? I don't know. But in this specific day, the workout was over and I cannot get out of the pool fast enough. I mean, that's just how I am. Like, workout over, I am jumping out of the pool, onto the pool side and like heading to the showers. And so this friend of mine who enjoyed swimming, Sarah, was like, hey, Blaine, wait, don't you ever just like stay in the water and play and have fun? And I literally was frozen in place. This concept, she could have been speaking a different language. And I'm a kid who grew up with a swimming pool in my backyard. I was like, no, are you nuts? Like, I hate that water. I hate being in there. No, I am going to the shower. I'm freezing because this water is always cold. I am going to the shower. I am getting warm and I'm going out to have a nice dinner. But I'll never forget it because I was literally shocked by the question. And she's just like, okay. And she's like doing somersaults or whatever. And, enjoying the water and like staying in longer to play after the structured swim workout. But I think what I just said about triathlon gets it. I don't know if it's my consternation, but it's truly one of the most joyful periods of my life when I was working the absolute hardest to achieve a goal with a bunch of people I really loved. And we were traveling with it and having fun with it. The highlight of my day every day was meeting those people and doing something with them in the pursuit. And we were all at different levels. Some of us were very competitive and would win. Some of us were like in the very back and the last to finish. It had nothing to do with how good you were. It was just the pursuit.
I love that story. And I feel like when we had this conversation prior to my first podcast about play, you had a similar reaction when I was like, I've been reading about, all these studies about play and how important it is. And you were like, play? What? I'm going to the shower, out to dinner, talk to you later. And maybe that's why we're here now. And actually, it's funny because on the What Would Lou Do field trips, we defined, I shared the definition of play. There's actually a definition of play. I shared the definition of play. And then we went on and we were defining connection. And then next time we meet, we're going to define love. So it's really kind of interesting to actually define something for yourself. Like in this book that I have about play, he defines it, but it took him a long time to define it in the book because he was like, how do you define something like play? It's indefinable. I don't want to bracket it and box it in and all of that. But then it was actually quite powerful in the book for him to do. And it's been quite powerful for us in What Would Lou Do in the field trip, just to define connection. People were, it was just like a really wild and deep conversation. And so maybe we should take a little step back or a page from Lou's book and I can share with you some of the definitions. I'm using air quotes for those of you that are listening. Of play that have been bandied about, or we could just try to define it ourselves here so that you can then see if in fact you are doing enough play. Because I know that both of us are very engaged and committed to our own health and growth in life. And so when we find something that's like, I still remember, and it just makes me laugh, like flossing adds 7 years to your life. Like, it's such a random thing. And like, how did they determine it's 7 years and like whatever? But it's like, all right, I'm going to add 7 years by flossing. That's a no brainer, right? So it's like, once you know these things, and like every time you don't floss, you're like, did I just take 3 months off my life by skipping my flossing tonight? You know what I mean? So it gets to be like that. So I don't want to add more to people's plates. In fact, the whole idea of the play is to take what might feel like a job and turn it into play, which is something I want to talk about because it's something that I've been doing quite a lot the last week and a half here with a landscaping project that I'm doing. But do you want to define a little bit about what play might mean, and so that you might feel more comfortable knowing if you are or are not playing enough? Getting your vitamin
Sure.
play?
I don't want this to be a super boring podcast where we're like nitpicking around definitions and stuff.
No,
as a listener of podcasts, I would not find that too exciting. I think the spirit of the conversation is finding time for yourself, right? That is something that you enjoy doing that doesn't have much of a purpose other than pure enjoyment.
There you
Is
go.
that close to the definition?
That's one of the definitions. Absolutely. It's purposeless. Yep. Yep.
And maybe this is a spoiler alert, but I did, because when Lauren brought it up, it wasn't about shaming me or guilting me or anything. She was just like, I'm reading this great book about play and was, telling me some things in the book. And internally I was like cringing, like, I don't do any of that. I'm going to die. And so then I was like, okay, Blaine, like, what do you want to do? And I know, because for quite a while, I've loved watercolor paint, and watercolor paintings that are done by people who are good at it. I just love that art. I love that medium. I love the look of watercolor. I love that it's usually nature-based stuff. I mean, it's just something that in the world of art, I have always enjoyed the watercolor lane. And on the interwebs, you look at a couple of things and you start seeing all the ads and all of that. And so every time that happens, like, oh, I really want to start like getting a watercolor book and start planning. And I want it to be flowers. Like I knew exactly what I wanted. And so after Lauren and I were talking about play, I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I did. I ordered like the watercolor paint set. And the book has these really faint outlines of all these different flowers. And then, I got the paint brushes and the paints. And then it has these little cards that go with each one that kind of like, it's like a little step-by-step guide of, first use this type of color and do this. Second, use this type of color and do that, and it kind of like talks you through how to do the painting. And so I did order that so I could start to, with no purpose whatsoever, just sit and paint. I haven't done it yet. But I'm going to, today is a Tuesday. I wanted to start last weekend, but then I just ended up having a busy weekend and I haven't got to do it yet. But that's it. I was motivated enough by our conversation to actually pull the trigger to buy this. I think we talked about cooking. I mean, yes, cooking has a purpose in that, like, I'm not cooking and throwing the food away because I just like want the art of cooking, like it is in alignment with consumption and a meal. But I've loved, I'm not a recipe cook at all. I mean, it's not that I don't have cookbooks, because I do. And it's not that I don't take inspiration from recipes, because I do. But just in general, like, I don't take out a measuring spoon or a measuring cup. Like, maybe if I was baking, but just I'm not much of a baker. Just when I go home and make dinner tonight, like, I'm just going to make it. There will be no measuring. I'm going to dump stuff in. I'm going to chop as much as I want. I'm going to throw it all together, and it's going to be delicious. And then through becoming a vegan a long time ago, and now I do food energetics. And so again, I eat in a really different way than I did a year ago. And I've brought a lot of new ingredients into my cooking because of the types, it's just a lot of more Asian foods that are typically used. And I've really been having fun and playfulness and like using my intuition and enjoying it. And then I get to eat what I make. So I thought that might be some creative in play. But, when I run, I mean, yes, there are definitely structured running workouts that I do for the purpose of getting faster. And those I don't necessarily love. They're really, really hard. but that's like 15% of my running. I mean, 85% of my running is just me going out and running the speed, going where I want to go. I mean, sometimes how long I run is dictated by something I'm working towards, but I sort out so much of my life. I go alone. Like I don't run with anybody else. Back in my triathlon days, I just ran in groups and we had friends and we talked the whole time. And now I just run by myself. I mean, how many times, Lauren, do I call you after run and I'm like, oh my God, I had this idea while I was running, and we talk about it. And so, I mean, I feel like it is a creative, important part of my life that sometimes has a goal and sometimes does not that day, depending on the day. But if it was taken away from me, which I know nothing lasts forever, and I have so much gratitude that I have a healthy body that can run, and I live so much in the present, knowing that that's not going to last forever. And so I love it so much. And so, I mean, is that play?
Okay, I'm going to pause for 1 second here. The book is right here. I'm just going to grab it because you brought up a lot of things, and I'm not arguing with you, but I want to differentiate some of those, because what you've been talking about a lot is creativity, which, yes, amazing creativity, and exercise, working out, directed, yes, but not necessarily play. It's right here. 1 second. And so with the cooking, right? The cooking, that's very creative, but it's not necessarily play because it has a purpose. It has a very specific purpose, right? And so, am I going to be able to find it right away? It's like 4 or 5 things.
But I mean, if I'm watercolor painting, that has a purpose.
What's the purpose of watercolor painting?
I don't know. I have this little design. I fill in the lines. I use the colors. I follow the directions. And in the end, I have a painting.
But there's no purpose for the painting. Like there's no reason for it or need for it. If you didn't do the painting, that doesn't matter. Whereas if you didn't eat, that matters, right? That's very purposeful. But okay, here we go. Apparently purposeless. So it's done for its own sake, right? So the painting, and I've been doing some of that too, just trying to be more creative and making some art. And I think the piece that separates play from other things is, and I know you and I have this very similar quality where I'll just speak for myself. I'll come up with an idea and I will have it thought all the way through to like the logo and the launch date and that's not play. I mean, it is play because I'm not taking it into effect, but it's like if you started watercoloring and then your whole reason for watercoloring was to get into an art gallery and show your watercolors, that's no longer play, even though it's playful and it's creative, but it's got a purpose. I want to get better at my art so that I can show it in a gallery so that I can sell it, da-da-da. That's not play anymore. That's why so many people don't like to get a job in the industry that they love. Like I asked my husband once, why didn't you ever work on ski patrol? He's like, because I love skiing. I want to go up there and ski every day. I don't want to go up there and work because then it's not play anymore. Okay, so apparently purposeless, voluntary. Nobody's making you do it. There's an inherent attraction to it. You feel a freedom from time, diminished consciousness of self, improvisational potential. Like you think about when like kids or even adults, and you go outside and you like start, well, now this rock is a turtle. And then this little thing over here, that's the monster that eats the turtle. Wait, I didn't know we had monsters. Well, now the rock's a monster too, right? It just becomes improvisational. And then a continuation desire. You want to keep doing it, right? So these are, again, this is just one dude's opinion on play, but I liked it.
I think that's cooking.
Yeah.
I improv in cooking all the time.
But the purposelessness of it, the purposelessness of it. Like you wouldn't just go in the kitchen and, like you said, throw around, make a bunch of stuff and then throw it away. There's a purpose. You're going in there you're being very creative, but you're going into the kitchen with a purpose. Otherwise, you would not waste your time. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't waste food or whatever.
Or the food.
Well, then I don't think I ever play. I mean, even when I paddleboard, because, like I love to go out and paddleboard, but I have a purpose, I like when I'm painting my watercolor, I'm going to have a purpose.
But I don't think so. Tell me the purpose of the watercolors or the purpose of the paddleboarding. What's the purpose of paddleboarding?
Well, I never paddleboard by myself. And so, I mean, paddleboarding is a social activity. Mm-hmm. So the purpose is like spend time with my friends.
Mm-hmm. But the activity itself, I mean, you could spend time with your friends in your kitchen cooking, but you're out doing something purposeless. You're literally paddling around in circles, like you're going, you're not going anywhere. You're not trying to get to a place. You're playing in the water. You're just like messing around, having fun, creative, purposelessness. No?
Okay. I get together with my vegan friends and we cook all the time. Like literally this vegan egg white product just came out. And we're like, what? It's this powder. Like, oh my God, we can make profiteroles. We can make angel food cake. Like, let's go try. And we went and got in my friend's kitchen. We don't know what we're doing. It's a brand new product. We're looking at other recipes. I mean, but yes, we ate what we made. But I mean, it was definitely a social activity, trying and being creative just to spend time together and like hang out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying let's define it. Let's define play. We could absolutely define it. And cooking can be play and can be playful. Eating can be playful. I mean, I concur with what you're saying. And here's an interesting thought, because this book was written by a man. Maybe that purposelessness is not the same for everybody. Let's just say it that way, right? Because women have traditionally spent a lot of time in the kitchen, far more than men, even though the predominance of chefs are men. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But women have spent a lot of time in the kitchen, a lot of time raising the children, right? So the inherent playfulness of cooking, child rearing, some of those things, they're not purposeless. And so maybe there's that piece from a male perspective that it has to be purposeless. But from a feminine perspective or a female perspective, it's like, well, I don't have time to not have a purpose, but I can be very playful within that purpose. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't really know. Because you're making me think. So some of the things that I've been doing this week, it's a lot of work. I'm doing landscaping, and it's an unbelievable amount of work. Like, it's so hard. And I love it, but like I'm working with a Pulaski, like the earth here in Montana, like it's the Rocky Mountains for a reason. Then it is hard. You cannot just take a shovel to the earth. It does not take a shovel. First, you have to take a pickaxe to the earth, and you have to pickaxe for a long time, and then you rake, and then you shovel. Like, it's a lot. And so I did all this, and I got a bunch of beautiful soil delivered to go on top of this rock solid substrate. And I spread that all out, and then I have all these local wildflower seeds from the native plant nursery. And so I spread all the wildflower seeds, and then I had to tamp them down. Now, I could have gone out and bought, but I was resistant. I've spent so much money at this point for all of these things. And I was like, I could go out and buy a roller to like roll the seeds into the dirt. But I was like, oh, it doesn't look like that big. I'll just like walk it. Well, it turns out what I thought was like, oh, that'll take 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It was like 2 hours of tamping down the soil with my feet. And it became just this game. I was like dancing. I was doing the little chug, 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 one foot, and then chug, 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 other foot, and then back. Then there's a little hill. So I was like going up and then back down in like a figure eight pattern to try to like get some, momentum. But then I didn't want to pull it down the hill. So I was like hiking uphill and dragging it a little teeny bit with my feet. It was so fun that literally the 2 hours just passed really quickly. Now, it was purposed. I literally did that to tamp these seeds in. So I think we're throwing this one, mainstay of play out of our list anyway, because it definitely had a purpose. But if you had seen me out there, you would have been like, what is that lady doing? Like, what is happening back there? Like, That's insane. And then you'd look out an hour and a half later and you'd like, that lady's still out there doing some weird thing. You'd be like, Mom, you should call somebody. Like, that lady's being weird out in the backyard. It was so fun, though. And so, like, I've been bringing that to everything that I do. We had a snow event here, and I want to ask you about your snow event today, but we had a snow event a few weeks ago, and it wasn't enough snow to shovel, but there was a lot of snow out on my little deck off of this office room floor. And I was like, I should go shovel that off the deck. And then instead I went out and I made snowballs and I was aiming them and practicing seeing if I could hit the tree. So I would do 5 snowballs with my right hand and then 5 snowballs with my left hand. And I did, and then I would get really cold and I would come back inside. And I did that. I was like, I can't leave it because there's still material on the deck. So I went out until I had snowballed clear the whole deck. And again, could have gotten a shovel and done it in 5 minutes, but it was so much fun. And you, in May 6th, got a massive dump of snow in Denver. Did you go out and make a snow angel or anything?
No. It didn't stick to our, the ground is too warm. I mean, like it's stuck to like grass and tabletops and trees. I mean, so many tree limbs down. I mean, our trees are just bent in half and the snow is very heavy, but it didn't stick to like concrete or sidewalks or like our back or whatever. So no, but I mean, today is a work day. I had a full schedule.
So I feel like the anxiety, let's use that word instead of the other word. Now I can't even remember what it was. The big word we looked up earlier.
Consternation. Maybe can we call it energy? Because I'm trying to like really like, what is the energy of all that? Like energy is everything, you know, right? So energy constriction versus energy like expansion or ease or like whatever you want to say. Maybe we can speak in the language of energy.
Yes, I like that a lot because one of the biggest points or takeaways from this book and this theory is that the more that you play and bring play into your life in all levels and capacities, the easier and more efficient all your work becomes, which is a very actually strict energy principle of coherence. The more coherent, in other words, the more in tune all of your energy is with itself, the more that it is in tune and in alignment with what its best practices of each energy field is in your body, the more in coherence that you are, the more in space coherence, the more you are in coherence, the better you perform at absolutely everything you do. You're going to be faster in your races. Your conversations are going to be more effective. Your testing is going to be higher. Your meal prep is going to be more fun and easier. Like everything that you do is easier, better, more efficient, more effective if your energy is in coherence. Okay. So similarly, this theory is the more that you play the same things. And he's done all these studies with these massive big companies and, you know, Fortune 500 and all this stuff that says that if the employees don't play all the way up to, you know, C-suite, if there's no play, then the work is harder, less good, all of that stuff. And so when I said, did you play in the snow today? Your first comment was like SNL. Like, no, it's a work day. No play for me today. And I'm going to challenge you and say, if you could bring some play, I know you love your work. I love my work too. Even the challenging parts of it, which, you know, are not as fun. Like there are fun parts. This is one of the fun parts of our work life, right? Like working on the back end of all of our technology is not as fun as this kind of thing, right? So there's definitely pieces. It's not like everything you do is throwing snowballs at a tree, but bringing that idea And I don't think I shared this on the last podcast, and I might have shared it with you, but it was a really fascinating story. And again, it was from the book. I don't know if I can find the exact company, but this company, oh yeah, did we talk about this already? It was Intel, that company. And they were making something else before. They make chips now, right? But they were making something else before, and there was a lot of competition, and they were struggling, but they were really invested in it. And they're like, well, we can't switch to anything else because this is what we do. And but they were going down. And so the two main people, like the you and me of that company, said, let's fire ourselves. Okay, we're fired. Let's leave the room. They literally like stood up and left the room because they were fired. And then let's hire two people that are wildly creative thinkers, out of the box thinkers. That's not you and me. Okay, it's you and me then. It's now, Lane and Oren instead, right? And so we come back in the room as these new creative thinkers, and they're like, maybe we should start making chips. And now they're Intel. So it's like, and that was a very playful, like, let's fire ourselves. Like, that was a very playful way to look at a problem instead of, let's crunch numbers or let's look at other data that we haven't figured out. Like, let's think our way through this. They were like, let's play our way through this. And so I offer that because obviously they're a massive company. It'd be awesome if we were like, yeah, we're, economically comparative to Intel, no problem. We could get there if we have that level of play in our world. So I want to challenge you in a way that's playful and not in a way that feels like, oh God, one more thing to do. I don't have time to be playful. Now I have to think about that. I'm not, right? Not spinning out in that direction.
I hear what you're saying. I avoid winter very seriously. Going out and playing with the snowballs will never be played.
Okay. Forget the snowball. I was just so excited. You sent me a picture this morning of snow and you got me excited.
I knew you would like it.
You started it.
I'm like, oh man. I mean, how late in the year does the snow come? But I do think it's pretty. And I mean, I truly do agree with you. And, even taking it to the biological perspective, it's funny. I got an Aura ring at the beginning of March. And so, now I have, it's like mid-May. So I have quite a bit of data. I don't want to get too far off on this. One interesting piece of data is I moved from sea level to high altitude. And holy cow, that does a number on you. When you do that, but now I'm almost back in my sea level numbers. But it's the Aura ring is, you see, they call it stress, right? And then they call it stress and resilience. Like they're measuring your stress, and then they're measuring your resilience to your stress, and they're giving you all the same messages, right? Like take these like breaks in the middle of the day, and because they're measuring your blood pressure, and they call it something else, but it's basically blood pressure, and your heart rate, and your they're it's just constantly being measured on you. And so when I'm very activated, like I am here, on a podcast or whatever, it's going to register as stress on my ring, and it's going to say like, I'm stressed a lot in the day from the biological metric perspective. And so I'm getting all these nudges from Aura all the time about like taking these breaks. And, it's funny. It's like, you meditate, do box breathing. You know what I mean? It like gives me all these things that I'm like, already did, but it's the same science. I think the play author is drawing on this same science, that when you're just in this engaged state, like you can't just be in this engaged state all the time. You need the yin and the yang, right? Like you need to balance it out, because if you're engaged all the time, your creativity isn't going to come forth. You're not going to be your best thinker. And, I'm a sleep expert. I don't know. I'm very well versed in sleep. And I was just on a podcast where I gave this whole talk about how you can't be so wired up all day long. Like, your ability to go down at night is a mirror of what your day was. And the more that you were, down and relaxed during the day, then the more the body's like, oh, good, relax, time. Or if you're just all day long, it's not a mystery why your body can't just flip a switch the second that your head hits the pillow. And so these messages are coming at me from many different angles. And I truly am doing a much better job at taking, because I see this hard data from Aura about how stressed I am. And my sleep data is rock star. I will say that. And then my resilience scores are rock star, because Aura's like, you are incredibly driven and stressed all day long, and your sleep is out of this world. And so it gives me literally exceptional. It's the highest you can be in resilience. Like, I am that. But the reason they call me that is because I can go from so much stress to like so much recovery. But I don't like to see all that stress, because it's not good long term. I mean, just like we all know, stress is the number one killer. And so I am trying to take more relaxing breaks in the day so that my overall stress number isn't as high. And I think that the play data and this type of data you get from Aura is basically the same data.
I want to speak to that in a moment, but what I first have to go back to, because we had that conversation about the summit that you just did about sleep, and you can't be agitated and aggressive all day and then just hit the bed and sleep. And it was about like it stays really light here late. And so it's only the beginning of May, and it's already like 9:30 is when it starts to get a little bit dark. Like, so it's late. And it was just yesterday, the day before, it was like 8:30, and it's still like full bright, like it's full light out, and I'm like, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to do? Like, I've done this and this and this and that. And now it's like, I'd eaten dinner, I'd done like everything. It was 8:30, and it was like, I have to do one more project because it's still light out. And I thought, wait, this is exactly what Blaine is saying. It's okay. And I almost had to give myself permission. That's what it was. I gave myself permission. Like, you can sit on the couch and relax. And I actually sat and I wrote some stuff. I journaled, and then I wrote a class plan and a newsletter. So it wasn't like I was done projecting, but I let myself sit, and the journal was done projecting. And I let myself kind of just spew out the day and just relax, with the idea that I was going to go to sleep soon, even though it was still really light out. So I took that from you, and I really appreciated that. But in terms of the data, what I want to say is, when you said that it's biological, I didn't think that that's where the direction you were going. Where I thought you were going is where he starts this whole book, and one of the propulsive data points is that animals play. And that animals play versus spending time doing what we would think an animal should do, which is food, shelter, reproduce. Like, you have nothing else to do. You are, like you're a coyote. Like, that's all you need to do. Get food, make sure you have shelter, and reproduce. Like, that's it. And don't get eaten by somebody bigger than you. But the fact of the matter is that all animals play. And so he's like, why? What is the biological purpose of play? Because if there's no biological purpose, an animal that is in massive survival their whole lives, pretty much, that's what they, animals in the wild, it's like survival. Why are they playing? Why are they wasting time playing? Because it's not a waste of time. And it's actually the animals that play the most and for the longest are the ones evolutionarily that do the best. The ones individually that do the best. And the whole book is sort of all about all of those reasons beyond that. But then he started to map that over humans and, the Jet Propulsion Lab and Intel. And he, talks about these stories about these massive corporations that realized the same thing, that like the bears wrestling in the grass when they're little babies, those are the bears that are going to make it. And so, so it really is a necessity, a biologic. Well, it's not a necessity because we cannot do it. So I don't know how to qualify it. It's not necessary, but the benefits of it are so tremendous that it sort of falls under those longevity things. Like, you don't have to have good relationships in your life, but if you don't, it's not good for your longevity. Loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But you don't have to if you don't, creativity is great for your longevity. Walking is great for like all these things. You don't have to do any of them, but they equal much more when you do them. They bring an equal much more than they have individually. I kind of just bungled that last sentence, but
yeah. I know what you mean. No, what I meant by biology is that the stress scientist would say the person who has stress all day without taking breaks and bringing down their heart rate and bringing it is going to die. And the play scientist is going to say the person who doesn't take breaks and play is going to die. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like the biology, they're just coming at it from different ways. Yeah. Like they're calling one is play and one is like breaks and rest and, that sort of thing, non-work.
And the yogi would say, we're all going to die, but the players are going to die happier and maybe longer in the future. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the energy of play, I think, it's interesting because you've just brought this up, but we really haven't talked about this offline the way we sometimes do. But the energy of play, I feel, falls very squarely into the fire element, which is that exuberant, the life of the party. And there's an energy system called radiant circuits, which they're also, if you know Chinese medicine, they're called extraordinary vessels, which I kind of like that name even more. Like, you have a system in your body that's called extraordinary vessels. I'm like, yes, thank you. More, please, for that one. And it's all about joy and play and healing, which I also think is very interesting that they are all words that go together in this system, because play can be very, very healing. And a lot of, we learn faster and retain more when we learn in a playful environment versus a very strict, studious environment. There's just so much that says play is the thing.
Plays the thing. I am going to paint. I mean, I've been very present with this since all of our conversations. And that's why we're talking about it here, because we like to share with our audience what we're sharing with each other and what we're working on in our own lives. So play is definitely, it's never going to be snowballs for me, but play is definitely becoming much more of a priority.
Yeah. And also just making that be playful. Like I finally set up all my paints and charcoals and everything just on a little side table. And if I have 10 minutes, I'll just go sit down and doodle something. It doesn't have to be a big production. I have a dartboard. I have a cornhole set. I just like to just shoot some darts or throw some cornhole. And it's just fun. It's playful. It takes a couple minutes. It resets your brain. So it's not like you have to have, 8 hours to play. And even if you have an 8-hour workday, is there some way within that, you can crumple up paper and can you get it into the waste basket? You know what I mean? Like little things like that just add some fun and lightness to the day. It's sort of like taking a few minutes to do some pranayama, box breathing for 1 minute. 1 minute of box breathing absolutely resets the nervous system. So does 1 minute of shooting darts.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
So let's be playful. Everyone, drop down in the comments. We would love to hear what you do for a little play break. Does the feeling that play adds so much to your life, does that stress you out and make you feel like, now I have to play? Or does that light you up and make you think, yay, I've been doing this all along. Finally, they're concurring with me that play is the way. Let us know your thoughts about play. And that's it from now. This has been super fun. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Blaine, for playing so well on this one. I know this is a bit of a tough one. Thanks for playing.
Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you. So please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates. So light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.